Can you please introduce yourself and tell me if you're single or dating someone?
All right. My name is Alana Rosa Edwards, and I am dating.
How long have you been dating someone?
I have been in a relationship for the last 6 years.
Can you please tell me how you met your significant other?
So, we actually met at a networking event, and it was quite interesting because it was a holiday themed networking event and social event. And it was not the plan to pick up someone, but the plan has a plan and God has a plan, and A, B, C, D. Here we go.
When you started that relationship, did it feel natural?
Yes. I could say I definitely trust my boyfriend, and it was a nice time just exploring being with someone.
When you started that, what were some of the anxieties you had walking into a new relationship? And how did you go about communicating those with your partner?
Hmm. So, one of the anxieties that I had of definitely being in a new relationship was trust overall. In the age of social media, you have to learn to take people's word as it is, and also, their actions as they say they are.
When you come across a confrontation in your relationship, how do you cross that bridge with your partner?
I could say I approached it differently in the beginning than I do now. Because we've been together a while, I'm a lot more blunt with things. But in the beginning, I was a lot more considerate and, pussyfooting, as they would.
Do you think when you transition to more blunt and less pussyfoot, do you think that had a change on the outcome of how those conversations went?
Yes and no. In the beginning, it was a lot more reassurance and, you know, making sure that I did communicate how I wanted to be communicated towards. Now it's more of making sure that the point gets across on certain topics, depending on what it is. Because if it's a repetitive thing, for example, then we're straight to it. If it's something that's new, it's given grace, but it's more like, I need you to understand the urgency of what I'm saying.
What is something that has helped you personally navigate your relationship and continue to grow with your partner?
I would say having brothers makes me a lot more understanding and considerate of my partner. But the growth aspect is not putting him in the same box as my brothers or my close male friends, because everybody's different. And I feel a lot of times we set ourselves up where we compare one person to another person, and that's not fair. So I think when it's tailoring the response to my boyfriend and his unique self, I think that's the best part of being able to remedy the situation accordingly. Because then it's like, okay, I understood every little detail as to why, you got upset. Or maybe you're not understanding every little, motivation as to why I said what I said.
Do you think relationships and having a partner in life is a necessary thing, something that we just want? Do you think it furthers you and your journey in life? What does a relationship mean to you?
I think that relationships are definitely necessary, But I think having clear boundaries as to the context of that relationship is very important because a lot of times we overvalue or undervalue people. So I think when we have somebody that we truly enjoy being around, someone that we mutually respect, someone that brings new ideas to the table and can include you, I think that is the best part of having someone, and that's really that time when you could say, I have someone to lean on.
Do you think your life is better with your partner?
Oh yes, definitely. And it is a thing when they say you have to be really cautious of who your partner is, because the person that you spend so much time with, they add or negate to the fabric of your life. So definitely my boyfriend brings me joy, and he brings value in a sense, and I don't mean just as the surface value, because a lot of times men and women, when they talk about why they are beneficial in a relationship, they talk about benefits, aka value. But no, like, there's other value. Just how you say you're rich in spirit, you're valuable in arms. You're valuable in making sure that your mindset can be transformed to something else or clarified based off of love and respect.
Do you have any single friends?
Yes, I have many single friends.
Do they ever come to you and ask you how you built and blossomed your relationship, hoping to get their own journey of a relationship themselves?
No.
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 Why do you think that is?
For a myriad of reasons. I think, like, the closest I get is people who idolize the relationship but don't necessarily want to know how we got there. I think there are plenty of people who are happy to be single, or they are doing things to the detriment of being in a relationship. So they know that they can't be in a relationship like mine.
Do you have to put forth effort and continue to put in care into your relationship to keep it going? Or is it something that you set up one time and it has just taken itself away and you don't really have to care for it? Or is it something you constantly have to nurture and love?
Yes, I think relationships in a sense are like plants. You have to water them, you have to give them attention, you have to make sure they're in the right conditions, because there are times when you love somebody so much that other situations don't make it feasible to be in that relationship. And that can be timing, that can be situations with family, that can be housing, that can be age, it could be money. There's so many, and I think you have to be at the right stage of your life too, because if you're not in the same page, in the same book, then it doesn't really make sense.
In what ways do you think your energy or presence has changed since the pandemic, and do you believe others perceive it in dating or relationships with you?
So, the pandemic itself has changed a lot of people, places, situations, how we navigate life. And when the pandemic happened, me and my boyfriend were barely together a year. So, the pandemic, it was very interesting because we were still building the bubble, and like the basketball players, you build in the bubble, gotta stay in the bubble. And my relationships with many other people fell off. Friends, people who I had like maybe recently dated but were still in decent contact with, because I am friendly, but I try not to be too friendly for the sake of my relationships, and I am cognizant of that. But yeah, the pandemic has changed a lot in dating and just relationships in general, friendships and stuff. So
Do
things
you,
are weird.
do you think it was a negative change or a positive change?
I think it was mostly negative. I would say the positives about the pandemic and friendships or relationships in the pandemic, the people that you really wanted to see, you made that effort. And that kind of goes back to the beginning of nurturing relationships and watering them like plants. If you don't show them attention, but you may show them the rest of everything else, parts of it will flourish and parts of it will fall off. So I think it's kind of the same thing when it comes to, navigating, pandemic personalities, and a lot was lost with certain people. So some people will just never be the same, and you can't expect everybody to be in the same box.
When you think about the love you want to receive, do you feel you embody those same qualities and how you show them to your partner?
I try to be honest, I try to, kind of reciprocal behavior. Sometimes it can be a little lopsided, especially like if you're going back to, pandemic situations where thankfully I didn't lose anybody, directly from COVID, and neither did my partner per se, but it's like a lot of the world was burning down. So, we were able to kind of find refuge in, each other, but not a lot of people are able to say, the same thing for each other. So, I would say that, our relationship definitely flourished, and, like I said, the pros, kind of don't outweigh the cons. The negatives were very, people just got negative, and a lot of the world also showed us who was valuable in a sense. People's self-worth went, kind of tanked, and only the strong were really the ones to say, "Hey, I'm gonna flip this, and I'm gonna let the world see it."
Absolutely. How has your definition of vulnerability evolved, and do you allow others to truly see you as you are now?
I am learning to. It's not easy. So, for work, in a sense, I am a model and I do events. So, a lot of modeling and being forward facing in customer service and events, and being a people person is being transparent. You have to be able to show some sort of raw emotion, and we're constantly tested with that. And a lot of times people see the image of models being happy, people being, on top of the world, like nothing, could stop them. And, just like a lot of people be fronting, people be faking, people be doing the most. And there's only but so much that, I can do. There's some people who can, fake a whole soliloquy. There's some people who can, fake, being a impersonator. There's some people that can fake a whole relationship. There's people that can, literally be years, keeping relationships from people, that are part of their families, like it gets really bizarre, and I don't have enough energy in my life to fake it much. So when it comes to transparency, I try to be as authentic as possible, and I think that enables me to be a little bit more transparent. And then also transparency is admitting, you're not comfortable with some certain things, and it's not an easy thing to do because so many people expect for you to say yes. People expect for you to accept everything. People just expect for you to be amused. People expect for you to, just be open book. And you have to keep some pages closed. You have to, be able to reserve certain things because people will think that they read you in and out and then they can tell you how to operate your life and then all hell breaks loose.
Now, touching base on working a lot of events and dealing with people you've been meeting for the first time, do you feel that since COVID, it is easier or harder to start a conversation with a stranger? Do you feel, not on your side as somebody who does it frequently, but on their side, somebody who may not be a model, who may just be running into one new person a week? Do you feel like they are almost anxious or hesitant to start a conversation with you?
I think for me, like I said, because I work in entertainment, it's not that hard for me to start conversations with people, but for me it's emotional. Part of it I can, pull up in my big girl pants and say, okay, well I have to go to work, I have to do this because of my job. But there are times when I do want to be extra bubbly and extra open and, I'm willing to go speak to a couple of extra people and say, hey, I like that outfit. That's amazing. And then there's other times where, I do my work and then I'm looking for that quiet corner. So I can imagine that many people have anxiety, approaching people in public. I think the key is, especially like if you were to approach me, and the feedback that I do get, that I am warm and I am open, I exude a different energy. So that kind of draws people in that may or may not, think about talking to me immediately, but we bond over something. So, we're at Chick-fil-A and I got the last Polynesian sauce and I joked, about Polynesian sauce. Oh my gosh. And that now it's just like, I have a reason to speak. And the person just feels more comfortable and I feel like we bonded and there we are. Oh, I would have never said that. I know, but it's okay. And you have a great day. And,
So the little icebreaker.
Yes, being able to relate with people on different levels and about the small things, I think that's equally as important as the large things, the important things.
Absolutely. We are all stuck here together.
At times.
How do you think the balance between your independence and your desire for connection shows up in the way you love today?
So I would say it's different than maybe how I used to show love before. I feel that because of everything that happened with COVID and how people interact now, it's made me a little bit more wary of people, organizations, like taking things at face value. But at the same time, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I think that, I got a little sidetrack off. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, absolutely. How do you think the balance between your independence and your desire for connection shows up in the way you love your partner today?
Okay. I would say that it actually, in a sense, it actually makes me a little bit more reclusive. In a sense, I am open selectively. So when I go to networking events, when I'm online, when I have to do things for work, for example, that's when I am the most, available. But I choose to, remove myself from situations, especially as being a model or being as a content creator or any sort of arts industries. There are people who are attracted to me. There are people who are, influenced by me. There are people who want to get close to me. And sometimes it can be a little much. And not too much gets back to him. I try to, keep things at bay before I have to call the big dog.
Okay. Do you feel you're attracted to partners who mirror your inner state? And if so, what does that say about the version of yourself you're putting into the world? Do do you see a lot of yourself in your partner?
I do, but I don't. Like, he's very much an independent person. Like, I like the fact that we bond over arts and business, but there are many things that he learns from me, I learn from him. I think that I love the uniqueness. I have dated some people who are very much mirror images of me, and that I don't particularly like. Not that I can get all predictable, but no, it's just not really my cup of tea, to be honest.
Okay. Has the pandemic shifted your ability to express gratitude, patience, or empathy in your relationship? And how do you think that affects the way you receive love?
I would say because we live together now, it's a little different. um, we have to carve out a lot more space away from each other and with each other. So I think when we carve out that time and have the absence, it's like that refresh time. When we have time that we carve out for each other, that's more of the cohesive bonding and, oh, we said that we wanted to do this, we want to try something new, let's go and do it.
When you reflect on your past relationships, do you see ways in which your own fears or defensive have shaped the outcome of you carrying yourself today?
Oh, yes. I have been in a few relationships where things didn't go well just because of certain things that I hold dear now, like communication. Sometimes I wasn't the best communicator, and I had to learn that sometimes unresolved situations with other people can influence your now relationships. And sometimes your partner isn't ready to hear that or be as mature in that sense either. So it's kind of a little bit of both, where it's like you can't put all the blame on someone else. You have to accept some sort of accountability. And each relationship is a learning process. Each, situation, if you don't take it that seriously, like, not to goof off on it, but like, if you don't think it's the end of the world, then a lot more things will work out in the long run, where it's like, okay, we had this issue and we can move past it. We did move past it, now what's next? Oh, there shouldn't be anything next, because if we learned from the last situations, there shouldn't be anything next.
Okay, great. If someone were to love you exactly as you currently are, would you be the version of love that you truly desire? That's a tough one. If you were to love someone as you, I don't think that one applies to you, because you're like in a relationship. How do you navigate when you and your partner don't see eye to eye and can't come to see eye to eye?
So, a lot of times it's space and consultations with other people. It's not so much spreading your information or, letting everyone in your business, but kind of going to the people that you trust most and say, hey, can I run this situation by you? And you have to know if they're the right people, but like, part of it is just getting it out, because honestly, you'll never know if you don't say anything. So I think that, I love my boyfriend enough to be able to say, I'm willing to come to a compromise, I'm willing to come to a conclusion, or what is it that's keeping you from making this compromise? And then I think that's the bigger question, when it's like, okay, now I know what the problem is. It's not so much that we had a situation, but it's more on, we can't come past the situation because of X and Y.
Do you think the current society climate of dating is worse off than it was before COVID, or better off for the single people out there?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't want to be single now.
Can you reflect on that? Why?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Uh, so I feel part of it, a huge part of it is social media, and then the change in habits from COVID. So we don't go out like we used to. We don't go to the bars like we used to. I mean, I'm not telling you to go get sloppy drunk either, but we don't go to the places that we would normally be at. A food hall, a networking event. They're less and less now. Friends, parties, or gets-togethers. I feel that we were more in contact with each other before COVID, and just because we have people online doesn't really mean that we're tapped in. Like I had a childhood best friend yesterday. I found out that she got married, and it was just like, dang, like congratulations, and I'm happy for you. But it's just like I've only been invited to one wedding, and I mean things are different now, and like friends ain't friends like they used to, and it was just like, wow, people are really moving towards times in their lives where they don't really need anyone, or you thought you needed someone and they showed you the ass case. I don't know.
Do you think that's healthy, the isolation by the masses?
No, it is not healthy. It's a weird sort of isolation, like I said, because people are tapped into social media, but they're not tapped in person. So when it comes to actually operating in public, people have phobias now. People have social anxiety. Like, I don't think I developed anything from COVID per se in terms of anxieties or phobias, but I do think the ones that I already had were a little bit more exasperated, and but I'm more conscious of it now, and I try to break those habits because I know that we're so used to being inside, we're so used to being closed in, we're so used to being antisocial, and I've been antisocial, but it's like a love-hate relationship.
Do you think, for all your single friends and for all the single people out there, do you think it's more natural to meet somebody and more supporting of the longevity of the relationship to meet somebody online or in person?
The initial contact?
Like first off the bat. Like meeting somebody on a dating app versus meeting somebody at like an event or the grocery store or through friends.
So, my personal favorite, I enjoy meeting people in person. Especially in ordinary places like the supermarket. My favorite is the library. I've met people in the laundromat, and people aren't exempt. The rich, the poor. You have to get your clothes washed. You have to eat. So you have, So you take the bus to work. There's people who I've low key stalked on the bus because we've been on the bus every single day, and it just happens. I go to work this way. You go to work this way. You look good in your outfit. I look good in my outfit. Like, I see you getting on the bus. Like, just things like that. Like, I like having those bonding moments, and it's kind of like stories to tell. Compared to now, I was just scrolling. His profile picked up, and he had a stabby mask, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's not Halloween, but he's so funny. Like, how could I know that online? Like, that's just so corny. Like, and I understand people, they go through dating apps, and I mean, if you meet somebody on a non-dating app, I think that's a little better per se. But then, I mean, you open yourself up to really, like, prejudging people. And we do that so much more now compared to before, don't judge a book by its cover, that sort of thing, and I like to preach that because I was very much judged by the book. And it was just like, dang, like, you didn't even ask me my name. You didn't ask me, what was the reason I was here. Like, you just saw that I was associated with so-and-so, and so now I'm just the most evil person on earth. And it's just like, I could like you. Hello.
Do you think men have stopped going up to women in public and introducing themselves or starting things like they used to generations ago?
I think that I laugh because there's two types of men. There's men that have like very big bravado who are very much like, I, Tarzan, you, Jane, I come, I rescue you. And then there's others that are just very goofy and awkward. And I think it's only appropriate when it's done right. And it's sad to say, like, it's a little exclusion on it, but the creepy, not so much. And I mean, there's so much middle ground to say what people anticipate, what they accept, and what they deny. So, I mean, I think it's just really back to that whole common ground thing. Like, if you have something in common, that takes 90% of the work out for you because you have some reason to talk. Compared to that 10% when it's just like, hi, me Tarzan, Eugene, I watch you 40 years. So you've been watching me for 40 years, huh? Like, stuff like that is just like not appealing compared to like, hey, I've seen you walk in the bar for the last 40 days and 40 nights and I just couldn't get you out of my head. Like those cheesy pickup lines. At least you could say like, okay, you were flattered by that red dress I wore. Okay.
Do you find when you talk to your other female friends that they are more or less receptive to new men coming up and making acquaintances with them or trying to strike up conversation? Do you feel like they're more likely to shut it down post-COVID or embrace it?
Yeah, these girls don't want no action, and I don't know how to validate, like, how to get y'all some action. Like, it's just like when you go to the club and all the girls are dancing together, like, you're gonna have to find a way to get in there. I don't know, but like, these women aren't too receptive these days to men, and I don't know if it's just the open preferences or if it's just more of because you don't know how to approach right. I think that is the bigger scenario of it all. The approach.
What do you think men are looking for nowadays? Do you think men are looking for the atomic family as they've been looking for generations? Do you think they are looking for one-off relationships, short term? Do you think they are looking for just something once in a while? What do you think men are looking for in this climate?
I think inherently they want full relationships. They want, families and, a legacy to leave. I would too. But I think that there's very many men who are caught in stages where it's just they want to mess around, then they have someone that's serious but they're not that serious, and then by the time that serious person leaves, the boat has kind of sailed, and then they're kind of sitting there like, what do I do now? And then they're accepting anything and everything. And do you really get your nuclear family? Kind of yes, kind of no. There's people who, upon the same formula, you procreate with someone that you kind of wasn't all the way there with, but then now you're complaining that you don't get your family, and it's just like, well, maybe if you would have chose better in the beginning, maybe things would have been a little better, or maybe if you would have been a little bit more gracious of who you had with you, It's all about like being gracious and just being wise, like your actions produce reactions. And if you don't alter the state of what you're doing, in enough time to say, hey, well, I'm attracting these sort of women. Maybe it's my actions. Then, if you can tweak certain things, then you can be saved.
now same question, but with women. What do you think women are looking for nowadays? The atomic family, something that supports their desires? Do you think people? Do you think they just want, a lot of one of the most popular things right now is OnlyFans, right? And people are, instead of taking people out on dates, they're trying to tip people, or trying to gain favoritism that way. Do you think women are still looking for the nuclear family like men, or do you think they are looking for an ends to a means?
So, these women ain't looking for a full family either, I don't think. I think it's a default mechanism because we are, in a sense, designed to love, designed to have families, designed to take care of homes or whatever the case may be. But I don't think that many women, if you give them a choice, they'll choose career aspirations and, actually, being paid well at your jobs and not to be funny, but a man that can provide some value and some, being tricked on. I mean, some of these women, sad to say, the way that things are set up these days, kind of depending on a man to be the whole sole provider, for the nuclear family, it's kind of a little outdated because then what am I gonna do? And then you're gonna look at me like I'm a user and I'm a usurper and all of this sort of stuff. So it's just like, it's all this independence looking, and we are still kind of catching up to men in a sense. So there's very many women who just want to have that independence, and until somebody can say, I can provide this security and this leg up and make sure that our nuclear family is the nuclear family, yeah, it's going to be a little lopsided here.
And the last question I have for you, what do you think the key component of your relationship is, and what you put into it to keep it working? What is the number one secret, the one thing that keeps it all glued together?
I would say gratitude, graciousness. We do a lot of things half-half, equal contributions, or offset contributions where, if you're paying for the movie, I'm paying for the snacks, and I think that works best for us because we're both contributing to a sense and no one feels that they're holding too much of the weight. I think a lot of times people get bogged down literally when there's so many responsibilities and not enough people to help with the responsibilities. And a lot of relationships, when you do get that nuclear family, it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And a lot of people think that the work stops. And like you asked before, is it something that you just set once and forget? You can't. I mean, when you get married, that's kind of like that all one, like, all right, we sealed the deal. It really starts here. But it starts before that. If somebody doesn't exude those qualities beforehand, you shouldn't be doing something that's going to, seal your fate in a sense. You should be able to, thrive like a plant in a relationship that is nurturing and growing, and just like us natural people, hey, we have to be able to contribute in order to get something out of it, because if it's dead, it's dead. And if you keep on pouring life into something that's dead, it's not a movie. You're just putting in all this effort where at the end of the day, you have to be able to put the effort in the right places in order for things to succeed.
Okay, and I'll leave off on one last thing. When I say the word love, what is the first word that comes to your mind?
Happiness.
Well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your time and your insight. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people watching that may help them, that has helped you?
Love and happiness. Don't let everything negative that I said discourage you. I just want you to be careful and cautious in your relationships because, having a partner that you're going to be with for a while, I think that's one of the greatest investments that you can make, and treat it like an investment. Don't slack on your investment.
Well, thank you very much.